10 minutes past 3, and we shall begin. We want to keep time. So I noticed a couple of people weren't here. Just trying a brief summary, just to give you a basic structure. Right. We looked at, our main focus is verses 10 to 19 of Daniel chapter 11, right? When we ended yesterday, we ended with verse 10. We put verse 10 in place. Verse 10 is identifying one of the sons of the king of the north being stirred up even to the fortress of the king of the south. And you know that the fortress is the capital city, right? And he overflows and he passes through. And when you run that phrase in the Bible, overflow and pass through, it's identifying a work done by the king of the north, which is the same as done in verse 40. He overflows and passes through and enters into the country. But in verse 10 it says, he shall be stirred up even up to the fortress, to his fortress, meaning he doesn't enter into the fortress. But in verse 7 or 8, the king of the south in 1798 enters into the fortress. So there's that grammatical difference. And then we skipped verses 11 to 15, and we put 16, 17, 18, and 19 in their proper place. We showed verse 16 is the conquering of the glorious land, typifying verse 41, right? Typifying verse 41. And we saw that verse 17 is the conquering when he sets his face to enter. And when a power sets their face to enter, they're entering into Egypt. Because verse 42 of Daniel 11 talks about the conquering of Egypt. Verse 43, Egypt again. Then when you get to verse 19, it's talking about him stumbling and falling, marking the end of Rome, which is lining up with verse 45, with the papacy coming to his end with none now. And then we said, since you are seeing that these verses are sequential, if verse 10 is in 1989, verses 16, 17, 18 to 19 are from Sunday to the close of probation. Therefore, verses 11 to 15 need to take place in between 19, either at, okay, I should put 96 here, because it's a way mark. Either at 96, either at 91, 92, 96, 911, midnight of the midnight cry. So you need to know where to place those verses. And there's a logical reason why we can't place the battle of Raphia, which is Daniel 11:11, in 91. Simply because you didn't see Russia striking the United States in 91. So that's excluded, right? 96 you didn't see it. 9/11 did you see it? Did Russia strike the United States in 9/11? Russia struck the United States.
No.
Didn't, right?
Islam.
Yeah, Islam, right? Yes. So you already know it's either midnight or the midnight cry, right? Based on the structure, because the Sunday law is taken by verse 16. So verse 11 has to be either midnight or the midnight cry. And we show that it's midnight. Daniel 11:11, we have a doubling. And the first mention of 11 in the Bible is Exodus 11, where the first mention of midnight is in Exodus 11. The number 11 is connected with midnight. Judas falls off and betrays Christ at midnight, leaving 11 disciples. So the number 11 is there. We looked at the 1909 General Conference. Ellen White began to speak at the 11th hour. She spoke 11 times, 11:11, and she was 801 when she did it. There were 40 union conferences, and there were 21 members. She was speaking about the third angel's message, and at midnight the third angel arrives, which is the binding off. And when we looked at the characteristics of the Battle of Raphia, we saw that at midnight is the opening of the temple for the priests, which has been typified by October 22, which marks the conclusion of the 2300-day prophecy. And when Ptolemy goes and he defeats Antiochus the Great at the Battle of Raphia, part of his army was made up of 2,300 men. So that, yes, that plugs in right there. And we saw the connection between Uzziah, the king of the south, right? We saw an expression, and that expression is moved with collar and lifted up. Daniel 11:12 talks about the king of the south being moved with collar and his heart being lifted up. And we saw that the only other place where you find that expression is in Daniel chapter 8, when he's talking about the he-goats of Greece being moved with choler and waxing great, which means to be lifted up. So it's the same. So we saw that Greece is the king of the south, based on the context of that verse and the interchangeableness of the symbol. But when you look at the he-goat, one of the things that we were told about the he-goat is that it says when he was strong. And you only find that expression somewhere else in the Bible. It's only there twice in the Bible, which is in 2 Chronicles 26, talking about Uzziah, the king of the south. Judah is the south. And he says when he was strong, his heart was lifted up. And Uzziah goes into the temple, that's the abomination of desolation. Ptolemy IV, after the battle of Raphia, goes into the temple, abomination of desolation. And he casts down many 10,000s of Jews, showing a persecution of the Adventists in Russia, a bloodbath that's coming upon them at midnight. Right? And Uzziah goes into the temple, and 81 priests resist him. In Illinois, it is 81, when at the general conference, where there are 21 members, and midnight is July 21. So it locks it there. We're following. Right? Okay. Just trying to get people up to speed. And then we looked at the thing of God. Right? One of the things that we identified when we pulled quotations, because Uzziah receives leprosy on his forehead, and he's typifying the king of the south. When he enters into the temple, he receives a leprosy on his forehead. And when you look at what Sister White says about the leprosy, she says leprosy is the finger of God. Right? And we've been marking the finger of God as being at midnight. And we gave evidences: Belshazzar, Daniel 5:5, doubling, 5 wise virgins, 5 foolish separated at midnight. He sees fingers writing on the wall, right? And that's after Belshazzar's heart has been lifted up, and he sets the abomination of desolation by taking the vessels from the temple and filling them with wine. And then the finger of God writes this judgment there. The 10 commandments were written by the finger of God. And Sister White says that the Bible says that we're going to be judged by the law of liberty. And the midnight is a judgment step for the priests, right? And the 10 commandments were written by the finger of God. Therefore, the finger of God is connected with judgment. And at midnight, that's the judgment step for us. And in Revelation 11, when the temple is open, what's seen? The Ark of the Testament. But what's in the Ark of the Testament? The law. And how did the Lord write the law? With the finger. So when the temple is open, you see the finger of God. So the finger of God plugs right there. And the quotation from Sister White says that in the East, leprosy was considered to be the finger of God. And when the leper would come, they would cry, unclean, unclean. What's that?
Doubling.
A doubling. Do you mark a doubling at midnight?
Yes.
Yes, right? Judas, when the 11 disciples are left, comes and they arrest Christ at midnight, and Judas says, Master, Master. Right? So you have that there. Just briefing, because it's revision. And then we looked at the two armies, Ptolemy and Antiochus. Ptolemy was controlling the left wing, Antiochus was controlling the right wing. And Ptolemy is the king of the south, Antiochus is the king of the north. And we saw that in the United States you have politics, which they happen in the global structure, but they happen in the United States, where the Republicans are controlled by the Protestant churches and the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church is the king of the north, right? And those people that control the Republican Party, they are called the right wing, right? So the right wing is connected with the king of the north. And the people that control the Democratic Party are communists. And communism is the king of the south because it's atheism. And they call the Democratic Party in the United States the left wing. So you're seeing the right wing and the left wing are connected with the north and the south. And it's not an accident that at the Battle of Raphia, Ptolemy is controlling the left wing and it's the south, whilst Antiochus is controlling the right wing and it's the north. And we looked at the American Civil War. The Democrats were controlling the southern states, the Republicans were controlling the northern states, and there was a civil war between north and south. So you can see that principle there. Now, to move on to our next section, let's go to Daniel 11:13. Sorry, I was speeding because it's revision, and we want to go through some things. Daniel 11, I'll start from verse 12. So we've identified that Russia is Greece. In Daniel chapter 8, Greece represents Russia. That's what we saw. Russia is Greece, right? And we gave those witnesses. Verse 12 says, and when he had taken away the multitude, when the king of the south has taken away the multitude, his heart shall be lifted up, and he shall cast down many 10,000s, but he shall not be strengthened by it. Verse 13, For the king of the north shall return and set forth a multitude greater than the former, and shall certainly come after certain years, with a great army and with much riches. So this is identifying when the United States loses here at the Battle of Korea, they are going to begin to consolidate their military and build the economic and military might in preparation for the retaliation. It shall certainly come after certain years. Right? Then verse 14 says, we're not going to be able to deal with verse 14 because it's lengthy. And in those times they shall many stand up against the king of the south. Also the robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves to establish the vision, but they shall fall. So in those times, when the United States is building its economic and military power, what's going to be happening is the robbers of thy people are going to come in and exalt the vision. And what did we say is the robbers of thy people? Rome, the papacy. So in this history, the papacy begins to come into prophetic history, right? Because the armies of Rome have just been struck here. And in order for the papacy to have Sunday legislation in the United States needs to be intact. So the papacy is going to come and begin to work of exalting itself and turning over the financial structure of planet Earth to the United States, which is something we can't do with now, but that's the reality of what goes on there. So what you're seeing is that you're seeing many standing up against the king of the south, etc. Verse 15. So the king of the north shall come and shall cast up a mount, to cast the mountains to besiege, and take the most fenced cities, and the arms of the south shall not withstand, neither his chosen people, neither shall there be any strength to withstand. Right? Can we see? I'll read it again. So the king of the north shall come and cast up a mount, and take the most fenced cities, and the arms of the south shall not be able to withstand, neither his chosen people, neither shall there be any strength to withstand. Do we see? Do we see what's going on there? What's happening? The arms of the south shall not be able to withstand. So the king of the north retaliates and defeats the south. In Daniel 11:15. Another nice gem. Can you mark the number 15 for the midnight cry? Yes, August 15. Right? Yes, we can put it there. And yes, so it's marking a retaliation by the king of the north. And Russia loses. So there are two battles, right? First battle, Russia wins. Second battle, United States wins. And this is what we're marking as the Battle of Panium. That's why I have Panium here. Right? And it's key to note this word, Pan. Go ahead and look at it first. The Battle of Panium, which took place in, some say, 198 BC. United States wins. Right? Retaliates against Russia and wins. But if you notice, the king of the south has chosen people. Right? It has a chosen people. So Russia is going to come with allies. But the United States also has chosen people, because many stand up against the king of the south. And we're going to try and deal with who those many are. Lord willing, if we manage to sail through. So verse 15 is identifying the United States retaliating and winning. Verse 11 is identifying the Russia winning. So what you have here, you have a battle. Is it an accident that you have a battle? No. What do we know about the binding off? Samuel Snow, what message does he give at midnight? Behold the bridegroom cometh. What message does he give at the midnight cry? Behold the bridegroom cometh. So you can see doublings here, battle. You can see it a lot in the structure of the verses. So, verse 15 is the midnight cry. Verse 16 is the Sunday law. Because he enters into the glorious land. Now, let's just go to verse 16 to put some context in place. Verse 15 is just told us that the king of the north has won, right? Then verse 16 says, but he that cometh against him, against who? Against the power that's just won in the previous verse. He that cometh against him, against the north, shall do according to his own will, and none shall stand before him, and he shall stand in the glorious land, which by his hand shall be consumed. Sunday law. So the battle of Panium is at the midnight cry. Then at the Sunday law, verse 16, glorious land conquered. Right? So we put the battle of Panium there, and the root word there is pan. It's a key word. Let's turn to our notes. I really don't know pages. I'm going to read an extract from an article where it says recent lines of prophecy have been marking. Between the Battle of Raphia and the Battle of Panium, they signed 2 treaties. Antiochus and Ptolemy signed 2 treaties, right? So, yeah, but they signed it before the midnight cry. So you have a doubling of, you have peace, peace, while sudden destruction is coming, right? Yeah, peace, peace, sudden destruction coming. 2 treaties. So this is an extract from an article. Recent lines of prophecy have been marking a treaty established between midnight and the midnight cry. One such line is Daniel 11:27, concerning the pretentious agreement entered into between Caesar, Trump, and Anthony Putin. We're not going to be able to cover that line, I don't think so. Before the Battle of Actium, the midnight cry. Another is the treaties that Ptolemy, Philopator, and Antiochus Magnus entered into after the former's victory. So we see, right? Antiochus and Ptolemy signed a treaty, right? Mm-hmm. Former's victory at the Battle of Raphia, midnight. But before the latter's victory, at the Battle of Panium, the midnight cry, yet another line that can be added to these is the peace treaty that the Greeks entered into with the Persians, following the Greeks' victory at Salamis and Plataea. Brother Tanay was covering these, right? The battles of Salamis and Plataea, right? Yeah, I can't go through that, but he was covering it, right? Yeah, Salamis and Plataea. I'm still also trying to grapple with it because I wasn't there. But I just know that you have those dynamics. Salamis and Plataea, midnight. But before the rise of Alexander the Great, the midnight cry. Now, we're going to deal with this. The midnight cry. Therefore, we can expect some work of treaty work between midnight and the midnight cry. Do you see it? Based on the structure of Raphia and Panium, there are treaties that are signed between those 2 battles. In here, there are treaties signed. Right? So treaties become a significant emphasis in this history. But before the rise of Alexander the Great, the midnight cry. Therefore, we can expect some treaty work between midnight and the midnight cry. And the compiler suggests that the Treaty of Versailles is another witness to this truth. Having established this, it becomes no coincidence from May 7, when Germany was presented with the treaty, to June 28, when it was signed, it's 52 days. This becomes a second witness to the 52 days of Nehemiah, which the compiler suggests plug into the first binding off in the breakdown of the 2300 days. But this 52, okay, let me skip this. But what's being identified here is this. There's lines that you can show. You can put the line of World War I into this history, right? But we can't get into those details, but you can. And what's being identified is there are terms that Germany is presented with. In this case, the compiler is suggesting that Germany is typifying Russia, right? So Germany is presented with terms, and it's ratified 52 days later. Okay, so let's skip that. Uzziah dies at how old? What did we mention in the morning? 52. It's 52, right? So you can mark the number 52 at the midnight cry, right? Uzziah is 52, and Uzziah is the king of the south. And it's 52. In which year was Vladimir Putin born? 1952, right? Yeah, his beginning is going to mark the end of Russia.
I think I was watching the first Putin dies out. So the first guy in Russia dies out 52. The first
Vladimir.
The first guy who does the Bolshevik thing.
Vladimir Lenin.
Yeah, that guy dies at 52.
Ah, powerful.
Yeah.
Hey.
The first guy.
Yeah. And what we read in Daniel 8:21 says, and the notable one, and the rough goat is the king of Greece, yeah? And the notable one is who? The first king. Who's the first king of Greece? Prophetically. Who's Greece? Russia. Who's the first king of Russia? Vladimir Lenin. And Jesus does what? He illustrates the end of the beginning. Therefore, what's the name of the last president of Russia? Vladimir Putin. So it's not an accident that this Vladimir dies at 52. And this one was born at 9. Huh? I just count 1952, 65. And that's a nice number in terms of the prophetic. Within 65, and it's a number we hope to get to. Yeah, it's a providential symbol. Now, moving on. So the number 52 is a symbol, and I think I put a witness for that. Yes, if you go to Psalm, you don't need to go there, but in Isaiah, what happens to the virgins here? What happens to the virgins at the midnight cry? They're awake. They're awake. This is the awakening of the virgins, right? In Isaiah 52 says, awake, awake. Right? You have a doubling, you have a market doubling there. Isaiah 52, right? But the 52 I wanted to cover from this article, puts things in place, but it's lengthy. So we need to move. Now, here's something that I put in the notes. If you look at the word, this word is the word for warn, right? This is the word for warn, if I'm not mistaken. And when it's talking about the notable one in Daniel 8, and we're saying that notable one is the king of Greece, right? Vladimir Putin, right? And the Hebrew word for notable is, one of the translations is bitter. What? Bitter. So, one. Yeah. So that's one of the translations that you can find there, right? Now, if you turn, just keep turning in your notes. Go to Daniel 11:2. Let me read Daniel 11:2. I hope I haven't skipped anything about the bitter. Daniel 11:2. Because I put that in place for a reason. Please someone read Daniel 11:2 if they find it.
And now,
yeah, someone to read Daniel 11:2.
and now will I shew thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the fourth shall be the far richer than they all, and by his strength through his riches he shall stir up all against the realm of Persia.
Who's this fourth king who's far richer, as Brother Tanai has been telling us? Yeah? Donald Trump, president number what? 4, but president number what? From 45th, right? If you're counting from George Washington. The 45th, who's the fourth king who's far richer. And what does he do? He stirs up all against the realm of Greece. And that word to stir up means to agitate. And Trump means to agitate. Right? Trump means to agitate. Now, I've got here from A.T. Jones. It's lengthy. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But this is talking about when Xerxes the Great, who's typifying Trump, he's going on a military campaign against Greece. And we are making the argument that Greece here is representing Russia. And Xerxes, here it says, in Daniel 11:2, is a prophecy spoken in the 3rd year of Cyrus, BC 534, saying, behold, there shall yet stand up 3 kings in Persia, and the fourth shall be far richer than they all, and by his strength through his riches he shall stir up all against the realm of Greece. It was in fulfillment of this prophecy that Xerxes invaded Greece, BC 480, with the largest army ever known. I know the dynamics to this battle. Like there's Thermopylae, Platae, but I guess I'm just looking at the basic level, and there's corrections. I'm open for correction on this one. But at the basic level, if you go to the next boldface, it talks about then in his 6th year, he led his army into Greece and suffered a terrible defeat at Salamis and Platae. So it's identifying Xerxes having stirred up all against Greece, but he goes and he suffers a terrible battle. Is Trump going to lose at midnight against Greece? Right? Salamis and Platae, which, based on what I know so far, it's a doubling of battles. The market doubling there. I don't know if there are any changes. Right? So let's go to the next paragraph. It says, reckoning from the recovery of Egypt, Xerxes spent 4 full years in collecting his host and making ready all things that were needful for his soldiers. It was not till the close of his 5th year, BC 481. So Xerxes is beginning to make his journey into Greece in 481. Can you mark the number 81 here?
Yes.
Yes, Trump is rallying all against Greece. It says that he set forth on his march, accompanied by a mighty multitude, of all the armaments whereof any mention has reached us. This was by far the greatest, insomuch that no other expedition compared to this seems of any account. For was there a nation in all Asia which Xerxes didn't bring with him against Greece? So they're identifying Xerxes as like just basically rallying behind everyone, a great army. And it begins this in 481. And if you drop down to where it says number 9, on the same paragraph, and where there's a 9, like I think that's for page 9. It says, when Xerxes heard of the loss of his bridge, he was full of wrath, and straightway gave orders that the Hellespont should receive 300 lashes, and that a pair of fetters should be cast into it. Nay, Nay, I have even heard it said that he had the branders take their irons, and they would brand the Hellespont. It is certain that he commanded those that scourged the waters to utter, as they lashed them, these barbarian and wicked words, thou bitter water. So Xerxes in 481 is going for battle, and he encounters a bitterness. There's bitter waters right there. So one of the things that we're going to put there is bitter. Remember the notable one we were saying is Greece. The word for one means bitter. So therefore one of the characteristics of Greece is this bitterness. Right? So marking it bitter there. Now, for those who've been studying with, what have we've been saying about the seven thunders? Remember, we've been teaching, and for others who are not familiar with it, where did the joining of the two sticks begin? At the midnight cry. And who's there of the last 7 kings of Israel that said the midnight cry? Jeroboam who? Jeroboam 2. Like I was recently reading something from Sister White in Prophets and Kings, where she's saying, in the time of Jeroboam 2, Israel was successful in many battles. And is the United States going to be successful at the midnight cry in war? Yes, it wins the Battle of Panion. So there's Jeroboam 2 here. But line upon line, you can also bring Jeroboam 2 at the same place you put Jeroboam 1, right? So where you have Jeroboam 2, you can put Jeroboam 1. Because they are prophetically the same person, right? Jeroboam 2, Jeroboam 1. Because Jeroboam 1 is there when in the 120th year from Saul, right? Can you mark the number 120 here?
Yes.
And it sets up 2 images of the beast. And midnight cry begins the image of the beast. So Jeroboam 1 and Jeroboam 2 prophetically are the same person. Therefore, I'm saying Xerxes was far richer. There's another Xerxes, but prophetically they're the same Xerxes. And if you read the next paragraph, it says, Xerxes the second, the son of Artaxerxes Longimanus, immediately succeeded his father in the throne, but was allowed to reign but 45 days, being murdered by his half-brother, Sogdianus. Is it an accident? Xerxes 1 typifies the 45th president, and Xerxes the second rules for 45 days. Right? It's airtight, huh? Yes. So, if we turn the notes, here's the definition for one. I don't know what bitter means. Is it for notable? I will check.
Bitter is for cola.
For cola, yes, when it's moved with cola. When Greece is moved with cola, the word cola means bitter. But the word one here, one of the translations is rays of light. But in the eastward, it's a ray of light. Right? So there's some characteristics that we're given about Russia, that it causes bitterness and is connected with a ray of light. Do we see? Bitter and ray of light. Ray of light. Like this opens big stuff. When you go to Revelation 8 verse 10, it's there in the notes. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. Is a star a ray of light? It's a ray of light, right? A shooting star. And it fell upon the third part of the waters and upon the fountains of water. 8:11. And the name of the star is wormwood. And on the third part of the waters became wormwood. And many died of the waters because they were bitter. Do you see? The characteristics of Greece that you find in Daniel chapter 8 are the same that you find about the third trumpet in Revelation chapter 8. 8:8, right? Characteristics are there. Right? And I'm going to read a quotation from PP 291 paragraph 2. Can the 3 angels' messages be represented by 3 days? They can, right? Can they? Yes, they can be represented by 3 days. That's in the public record, but you can mark day number 1 as the first angel, day 2 as the second angel, day 3 as the third angel. So day 1, day 2, midnight is day 3, third angel. One of the is sleep and death, are they prophetically the same?
Yes.
Sleep and death, right?
Yes.
Yes, Lazarus sleepeth, but was he really sleeping? He was dead. So when the virgins, yes. PP 291 paragraph 2. Sleep and death are they're the same, right? Lazarus is sleeping, but he was dead. So it's the same, right? So what happens to the virgins at midnight? At midnight are the virgins asleep. They are awakened, therefore they are resurrected, aren't they?
Yes.
And Christ was resurrected on which day? The third day. And midnight marks the arrival of the third angel when the virgins are awakened. So you can relate to an angel messages a day. And this passage says, but for 3 days, as they journeyed, they could find no water. The supply which they had taken with them was exhausted. There was nothing to quench their burning thirst as they dragged wearily over the sun-burned plains. Moses was familiar with this region, knew what the others did not, that at Marah, the nearest station where springs were to be found, the water was unfit for use. With intense anxiety they watched the guiding cloud. With a sinking heart he heard the glad shout, water, water. What's that? Doubling. And this is on the third day, right? On the third day. Echoed along the line, men, women and children in joyous haste crowded to the fountain. When lo, a cry of anguish burst forth from the host, the water was bitter. You see, you mark a bitterness right there on the third day. Water, water. Right there where you have Greece striking the ram, the United States, the Battle of Rapha. And then I have this Zechariah 12:10. And I'll pour out upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplications, and they shall look upon me whom they have pierced. When was Christ pierced? Huh? The cross. Passover, right? Okay. And they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him as one is in bitterness for his firstborn. Where did you see people mourning for their firstborn? In Egypt. At what time? At midnight, right? At midnight. So you can see the bitterness marked right there at midnight, right? Mourning as if for an only son. And there's a bitter, so it's tied there, right? And they're going to see one whom they've pierced. Christ was pierced on the 14th day. He became the Passover lamb. And Passover happened at midnight, right? And I have there the proof for that. Exodus 11:4. And Moses said, thus saith the Lord, about midnight will I go out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and the firstborn of the beasts. And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there was none like it, nor shall it be like it anymore. The way I'm understanding the firstborn, I'm thinking the firstborn of Egypt. And contextually here, Egypt is representing the world. Egypt can either be Russia or the world. But I'm thinking about the firstborn of the world. And who's the firstborn of the world? Because the firstborn in the Bible is a symbol of preeminence. When you run the word firstborn in the Bible, it's emphasizing preeminence. Right? When you go to Daniel 11:41, when it's talking about the glorious land, one of the translations for the word glorious is prominent, above others. Which nation is above other nations? The United States. But what makes the United States prominent? The two horns, which are the Constitution, right? Here we've identified earlier that there's going to be a constitutional breach, right? Remember, the he-goat smites the ram and breaks the two horns. Greece strikes the United States and breaks some type of constitutional thing, right? We're seeing it. When you just run the phrase firstborn, I just don't have enough time to put that in place. But you can see it. Genesis 49, Reuben, Psalm 102, many witnesses. Many witnesses.
So it's the born of the world is
The United States. That one is a fact. I believe that's what the symbol is emphasizing.
And France was the firstborn
Of the Catholic Church.
And France typifies the United States.
Yeah, France typifies the United States. And Catholic means universal, so you can even relate to it at that level. Revelation 11:7. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that is sent out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them. Okay, I don't think I needed to put this in place. Go to Daniel 8:5. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth. So one thing that the he-goat is identified as is coming from the west and is covering the face of the whole earth. Right? Hope I didn't skip anything. I skipped, right? Yes, I skipped the important things. So we're marking a bitterness ray and a ray of light. And we saw that Attila the Hun, the third trumpet is Attila the Hun. And Attila the Hun is identified as bringing bitterness and is a ray of light. Because it's a star that fell from heaven. So therefore, the third trumpet is identifying the role of Greece, Russia. Therefore, Revelation chapter 8, the third trumpet is Russia. We following? We following? Alright. Go to the part, there's some quotations I'm skipping, but go to where it says sounding of the seven trumpets. Page 8 and 9. The trumpet sounded, the kings of the nations of Germany and Scythia from the Volga, perhaps the Danube, obeyed the warlike summons of Attila. From the royal village in the plains of Hungary, his standard moved towards the west. And after a march of 700 or 800 miles, he reached the conflux of the Rhine and the Neger. And the Volga is known as the national river of Russia. So Attila is actually from Russia. We follow it? Because the Volga is like the national river of Russia. So Attila is from Russia. Remember, in the Bible, the location of the power is mentioned. Right? So Attila the Hun represents Russia. And he has the characteristics of Greece, and we've already shown that Greece is Russia. Right? Then I'm going to read this quotation, the next quote. Attila invaded the Eastern Empire in the year 441. From that period, 10 years elapsed before he touched the Western Empire. So Attila attacks Rome in 441. Then 10 years later, he touches the Western Empire, right? 10 years later, he's at another battle. So I'm putting 441 here at midnight. Attila drops here. The star falls. Then 10 years later, he's at the western side. And it says, and 22 years intervened from 429 to 451 between the invasion of Africa by Genseric and the goal by Attila. The burning mountain arose first, though it blazed longer than the falling star. The alliance of Attila in 441 maintained the Vandals in the possession of Africa. So there was an alliance between Attila the Hun and Genseric. For those who have studied the trumpets, what do we say Genseric typifies? Islam. We can't get into it, but Genseric typifies Islam. So there's an alliance between Russia and who? Islam. Are you seeing an alliance being formed right now between Russia and Islam? Yes.
He broke the ships.
Huh?
He broke the ships.
He broke the ships, yes. Attila Genseric broke the ships in Revelation chapter 8, the second trumpet. And here the ships of Tarshish are sunken with an east wind. Right? Okay, we can always talk about that. But Attila is Islam. Genseric. And then it says, an enterprise had been concerted between the courts of the Ravenna and Constantinople for the recovery of the valuable province, and the ports of Sicily were already filled with the military and naval forces of Theodosius. But the subtle Genseric, who spread his negotiations around the world, prevented their designs by exciting the king of the Huns, Attila, to invade the Eastern Empire. So Attila the Hun is identifying the work of Russia striking the United States, Rome, because the king of the north is Rome, right? And the United States, remember, modern Babylon is divided into three parts: the beast, the dragon, and the false prophet. Right? We follow?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know that pagan Rome typifies the US? Which power put the papacy on the throne at the beginning of 1260?
France.
Yeah, France, but pagan Rome, right?
France was invaded.
France was a 10th part of pagan Rome. So pagan Rome. Yeah, right? We follow it. Pagan Rome. Revelation 13, the dragon gave him his power, seat, and great authority. And Sister White says the dragon is pagan Rome. Right? So the dragon puts the papacy on the throne. So here Attila is attacking Rome. And Rome can be identified as the power that puts the papacy on the throne. Pagan Rome. Which is the United States. Because at the end of the world, the United States is the power that puts the papacy on the throne. We're following? Is everyone getting it? Okay, I'll repeat that. Revelation 13. And the dragon gave him his power, seat, and great authority. The person being given power, seat, and great authority there is the papacy. But he's receiving that power, seat, and great authority from the dragon. And Sister White comments and says the dragon in a primary sense represents Satan, but in a secondary sense it's pagan Rome. So pagan Rome is the dragon, and pagan Rome is the power that puts the papacy on the throne. It gave him the seat. And at the end of the world, who's the power that puts the papacy on the throne? The United States. Therefore, the United States has been typified by pagan Rome. So when Attila the Hun is attacking Rome, he's attacking the United States. Because the characteristics of Attila the Hun match those of Russia and Raffia at midnight.
I just wanted to say that France wasn't the only nation, only division of pagan Rome that gave power and authority to the papacy.
Yeah.
So just
to clarify that.
Just to clarify so that people don't get confused.
Yeah. We got that, right? Okay, let's read on. Here I've got the definition of the name Attila, right? The definition of the name Attila. It's not there, right? You can always switch over. Alright. Attila. The origin of the name Attila is unclear. Menander used the term Attila as the name of the Volga River. Pritzak considers it to mean universal ruler, ruler of the world. Attila means what? Ruler of the world. Let's look at what Vladimir means in the bottom. The name Vladimir is a Slavic baby name. In Slavic, the meaning of the name Vladimir is universal ruler. Attila the Hun is who? Vladimir who? Vladimir means universal ruler. It means ruler of the world. Donald means ruler of the world. Right? So you have this confrontation going on over the rulership of the world, as others would put it. So Attila is Russia. We're saying is Vladimir Putin. He's a notable one in Daniel chapter 8. Huh? Okay. And to give a witness for this, in Daniel chapter 2, Greece is identified as a power that's going to do what? That was to who? Greece is a power that was to rule what? In Daniel chapter 2, it was to bear rule over what? The whole world. But can you separate a king from the kingdom? If the kingdom rules the world, what's the ruler? The ruler of the world. And who are we saying is Greece in this narrative? Russia. And it so happens that the president of Russia's name means ruler of the world. Because Russia is Greece. Right? Okay. And Attila the Hun, he attacks Rome in 451. He has an alliance with Genseric. But 10 years later, he suffers a defeat at the Battle of Charlens. Right? He suffers a defeat at the Battle of Charlens. In 451, 10 years later. How long did Alexander the Great's career last after conquering Middle Persia? 10 years. And Alexander the Great was the ruler of which kingdom? Greece, right? And when he fell, his kingdom was divided into four. Right? We want to look at it in Daniel 8:8. Right? So this is identifying the fall of Alexander the Great, typifying Vladimir Putin. In Daniel 8:8, and you can mark the number 8:8 at the midnight cry. Because this is the Battle of Panium. And it so happens that the Battle of Charlens, where Attila loses, was fought in Pannonia. And the root word for Pannonia is Pan. Right? 10 years later. And then the historians will tell you, they comment, they say that after the death of Attila, his kingdom was divided just like that of Alexander the Great. I couldn't find the quote, but I saved it on my phone. But the historians, secular historians say that. And it's a powerful witness. Now I have here New World Order, new dragon power. Hope I can finish this. New World Order, new dragon power. Yes. So I have a quotation. I can't read the whole quotation, but I'm going to summarize it. You can read it in your spare time. In this quotation, Sister White is identifying the Greeks as coming to inquire of Christ because they had heard of the triumphal entry. We did the reform lines in the morning.
Yes.
Ezra 7:9. Ezra arrives into Jerusalem on which day? First day of the 5th month. From 9/11, from the first day of the 5th month to the midnight cry, how many days is it?
Is it from where?
From the first day of the 5th month to from the first day of the 1st month to the first day of the 5th month. 120. And Ezra arrives where at the midnight cry? Jerusalem. So you can mark Jerusalem at the midnight cry, can't you? Jerusalem is there upon many witnesses, right? You can mark it there. Now, these Greeks, the Greeks, they've heard of Christ's triumphal entry into Jerusalem. And Sister White says the triumphal entry into Jerusalem typified what event? The midnight cry in Millerite history. And the midnight cry is given right here on day 120, right? So you can mark the triumphal entry there. But what causes the Greeks to come into prophetic history to inquire of Christ is the midnight cry. Therefore, when you get to the midnight cry, this is the history where the Greeks are now coming in to inquire. So you can mark this as the history of the Greeks. And I hope this doesn't get confusing. In Daniel chapter, at one level, Greece is Russia, right? But at another level, Greece is the United Nations, right? There are two Greek orders. I'm trying to make it very simple. Contextually, right? Donald Trump becomes the ruler of the world at the midnight cry, when he's leading out Greece, the 10 kings. But Vladimir Lenin is the ruler of the world when he's leading Greece, which is Russia. So you have Greece, Greece. Is it not a characteristic of the binding of? Battle, battle, Greece, Greece, right? We need to wrap our minds around that, but because of time, I can't really. But can you see the logic? Right? If you just follow the structure. Just follow the structure, right? This is the history when the Greeks are inquiring. But the Greeks are inquiring because of the midnight cry. Can these Greeks be the same Greeks as Russia? They can't, because Russia has just come to its end at the midnight cry. And you're now seeing a Greece rising in the midnight cry. Therefore, you're forced to relate to that Greece as a different Greece. Do you see? Okay. Then I have there a quote, a passage from Zechariah 8 verse 12. And Zechariah 8 verse 12 talks about people from all nations and all languages. Which kingdom represents the whole world? Greece. But which kingdom in our time specifically?
Russia.
No, Russia doesn't really represent the whole world. It does, but United Nations, right? It's the United Nations. It's a universal bond of union. It says it shall come to pass in that day that all nations from all the nations of the earth, right, shall seek the Lord of hosts in Jerusalem. Where do you mark Jerusalem? At the midnight cry. And it says that it shall come to pass in that day that 10 men shall take hold of the skirt of him that is a Jew. Is the United Nations the 10 men? Yes, they're the 10 kings, right? So in this history, you're seeing the 10 kings coming in. So one of the things that we know is that, trying to think of a good way to express it. Okay, let's move on. You have got envy of the gods as a quotation. He was known as Xerxes the Great, but he took the official title Shahanshah, which means King of Kings, which means ruler of the world. The King of Kings is the ruler of the world. When Alexander was shown the king's treasury, there was 120 talents of gold and silver, bullion. I don't know if they wanted to say billion. For contrast, Alexander began his invasion of Persia with 70 talents of gold. From the first day of the 5th month to the 10th day of the 7th month, how many days are there? You have 70. And here we're seeing an Alexander the Great that's rising with 70 talents of silver. We're seeing it. There's an Alexander the Great that's rising with 70 talents of silver, marking the rise of a new Greek order. The old Greek order is Russia, it's just fallen. Now there's a new Greek order, the UN rising. We're seeing it. Now, there's something that I forgot to mention. If you look at the birth of Attila, I don't remember the date, the year, but you can work by deduction, because he loses in 451. But when you look at how old he was when he lost this battle, who knows? He was 45, right? He was 45, because he loses the battle in the history of the 45th president. That's where Russia falls, right? Attila was 45. And now I want to show that the United Nations begins to rise at the midnight cry. It's the new Greek order. It's a new Greek order. It takes time to wrap your mind around Greece, right? But give it time, it will work out. At 9/11, 15 minutes. At 9/11, what are we told about the kings based on Psalm 48? The kings were assembled, but what prevented their plans? The east wind. Ishmael shall be a wild man, his hand against every man, and every man's hand against him. So here in connection with Ishmael, you're seeing the 10 kings are active as well, right? Ishmael at one level brings the 10 kings in, right? Because when he's there, every man needs to hold him. So the UN needs to gather. So Islam struck there, right? Now, what we know about the midnight cry is this. The midnight cry, Sister White says the midnight cry joined the second angel. And the second angel arrived at 9/11. But what do we know about what God has joined? Let no man put asunder. So if they're joined, the characteristics at the midnight cry, the characteristics of 9/11 can be seen where? At the midnight cry, because they're joined, right? So if Islam struck here, what will it do here? It will strike. But when Islam strikes, who else are you supposed to see? Every man, because they need to hold him. Sister White says, in the vision, I saw 4 holds. Hold. Then loose, close probation. So when Islam strikes, it needs to be held. And those who hold Islam is the 10 kings. So Islam is there, because the 10 kings come at the midnight cry. You following? So the kings were assembled, the United Nations was ready there. And when you look at when they now try to form the United Nations Charter, it began on June 26, 1945, right? And then it was ratified on October 24, 1945, because the United Nations comes in the history of the 45th president. And when you get to 9/11, was the 45th president ready?
Yes.
Yes. Trump was ready to be president. That's why it's 1945, because he was ready. And when you count the days from June 26 to October 22, it's 120. When the United Nations Charter is fully put in place and it's ratified, the United Nations is now functional. It's rising there. Right? Some things I'm going to skip Adam, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. Yeah, but I think it's necessary. The expression bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh is found where?
Yes.
And what's it identifying?
Marriage.
Where do you mark the marriage on the land? The midnight cry, right? The 2 walls, the midnight cry wall, the marriage wall is there, right? It's there. Now, in the book of Judges chapter 9, when the men of Shechem go to Abimelech, what do they say to him? You are our bone in our flesh. And how many talents of silver do they give him? 70 talents of silver. Right there, right at the midnight cry. And when you read Genesis 16 verse 12, which says, and he will be a wild man, his hand shall be against every man, and every man's hand against him. Where do the Greeks come from according to Sister White? From the west. Right? She says these Greeks from the west came to inquire. Right? Exodus 10 verse 13. And Moses stretched forth his rod over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought an east wind. Do we mark an east wind as Islam? Is there an east wind here? And the Lord brought an east wind upon the land all that day and all that night. And when it was morning, the east wind brought the locusts. So Islam comes in connection with the east wind. And the Lord turned a mighty, strong west wind which took away the locusts. I'm understanding this west wind to be the restraint placed upon Islam by the 10 kings, by the world. Because the Greeks come from the west. And you know that Ishmael's hand shall be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And it so happens that what takes away the locust is the west wind, identifying the restraint placed upon Islam by the 10 kings. The old, right, that's right there. Right, moving on. I'm going to skip the Jacob. Can you see that place where it says New World Order? Right, I'm not going to read all of that, but I'll paraphrase what that means. Go to the next page in the boldface, where they say today that new world is struggling to be born. So they're identifying the new world order as something that wants to be born. Do we see? Right? And go to the next page. When it's talking about the rise of Alexander the Great in Daniel 11, and we're identifying Alexander the Great is identifying the rise of this Greek order, the 10 kings, right? It says, and a mighty king shall stand up, and when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided. But when you look at that, it shall be divided towards the 4 winds. And when you look at that word broken in the Hebrew, it means to bring to birth. Right? And Alexander the Great is the king of Greece. Who's the one who leads the 10 kings? USA. Isn't the USA the one that's going to bring in the 10 kings into prophetic history? Yes. So his kingdom shall bring to birth the new world order. Do you follow? Yes. And when you look at the new world order, when you look at the new world order, when you look at the new world order, there are significant events that mark the beginning of the new world order. And what they, remember what Mubano was saying, I want a shift in the balance of what? Power, right? And soon after World War I, they formed the League of Nations, right? They formed the League of Nations. And I need to focus because of time. The League of Nations was an attempt, right? It was the first attempt to the United Nations, wasn't it? It was formed in 1919, which you can put there. Right, the League of Nations. But how many powers were behind the forming of the League of Nations primarily? 4. The Treaty of Versailles, right? We had 4, they call them the Big 4. And Alexander's kingdom is divided into how many parts? 4. And Alexander is the king of Greece, the United Nations, right? Yes, so you're seeing the connection there. And at the end of World War I, they announced a new world order, right? At the end of World War I, Woodrow Wilson was announcing a new world order. And at the end of World War II, they will begin to also announce a new world order. Do you see? In 1989, Bush the Great, you see the greats, we've been talking about the greats in the morning. We're now plugging in the greats. Bush the Great on September 11, 1989, 1989, announces a new world order. Right?
89 or 91?
First he did it in 89. Let me check my notes.
Is it 90?
90 and 91. Yes. But Gorbachev announced a new world order in 89. And the Soviet Union was falling. But Gorbachev did so. But Bush the Great in 1990 announces a new world order. In 1990, 9/11. And then the following year in 91, he again announces a new world order. Right? On 9/11. Right? And the new world order I'm saying is the 10 kings. Are we following? It's the 10 kings. At 9/11 are the kings assembled. The kings are assembled. The 10 kings are ready. From 1991 to 9/11, how many years do you have? 10 years, right? 10. The kings were assembled. And George Bush passes the Patriot Act. How many days after 9/11? 45 days after 9/11. Because the new world order of the 45th president was ready. We're following, right? And go to the part which says 19 kings of the north. Bush announces a new world order twice, in September 11, 1990, after the Cold War. And really the Cold War, you can argue, began in 1945, right? Really, some say 1947, but I'm saying the political tension was there in 1945. So if you count 45 years from 1945, you're in 1990, when Bush announces a new world order. Because the historians mark that at the end of the Cold War, it was an era of a new world order, because there's been a shift in the balance of political power. Right? The Soviet Union is falling, and the United States is now becoming a superpower. So it's 45 years later, right? No one is confused. Yeah, people look like the numbers have just fixed. Oh, okay, let me bite this one. I wanted to finish this, but yeah. And then it says, Ronald Reagan took office in 1981, and Ronald Reagan in the Scottish, Ronald means mighty ruler, but it means mighty king, right? There's lots I can't touch on. I think I need to just bind it off. It's for another time. But let me say, put the last thoughts in place. When you consider this, Bush the Great, for him to get into office, he had to win by how many votes, how many evangelicals voted for him. This is for those who are going to get it, like, so I can't explain it. But he won by 81%, right? Yes. And when you consider this, the turning points always come in the history of the Republican presidents, right? The first turning point is 1989. The fall of the Soviet Union was a turning point. Are we following? During the time of Bush the Great. And which is the other turning point that's identified by Sister White? 9/11. And it happened in the time of a Republican, Bush the Lesser. Are we following? And that turning point is that it connects with 9/11, isn't it? And this Bush is announcing a new world order on 9/11. Right? Are we following? And when you look at Bush, George Bush Jr. is subject of prophecy. Yeah, last point. Is he a subject of prophecy? Bush Jr. Yes, it's part of the 4 kings of Daniel 11, isn't it? He is, right? So he's a subject of prophecy. And he was born in 1946. Right? What's 45 years from 1946? 1991, when his father announces a new world order. Because the new world order comes in the history of the 45th president. And the New World Order comes at the midnight cry. But we know that we said the characteristics of 9/11 repeated the midnight cry, don't they? Right? We said it, right? So the New World Order of the 10 Kings comes in the midnight cry, and he announced the New World Order 9/11, 1990, 9/11, 1991, so you have a doubling of 9/11s. When the New World Order comes in, but yeah, this crazy. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to study your word. These things are big, Lord. We made it as far as you could allow. I pray that, Lord, we might have more time to study these truths and put these concepts in place. I pray that for those little gems or the big truths that someone gleaned from this, may they make an impact in their lives and may they prepare them in this testing time to be able to stand in the closing hours of this probation. Thank you, Heavenly Father. Be with us now. In Christ's name, Amen.